At least 5 people are dead in Myanmar after security forces opened fire on anti-coup protesters. Demonstrators had gathered on Sunday in response to an online appeal for nationwide protests. Saturday marked 3 months since the military took power in a coup. In the largest city of Yangon, demonstrators posed as pedestrians and took to the streets to voice their opposition before dispersing quickly. Military and police were deployed to residential areas. Plainclothes officers were reportedly on the lookout. An NHK crew saw a group of 6 young men and women being taken away by police. Media reports say at least 5 people were killed in Shan State in the east of the country and in Kachin State in the north. The crackdowns continued despite a public statement on April 24th by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The ASEAN leaders called for an immediate halt to the violence. Myanmar's military chief Min Aung Hlaing attended the summit-level meeting. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's sister has criticized the South Korean government for failing to stop defectors from flying anti-Pyongyang leaflets to the north recently. Kim Yong-jong on Sunday called the action by defectors a provocation against the north. She warned that Pyongyang can no longer remain an onlooker and will look into corresponding action against what it regards as a serious provocation. Kim added that the responsibility for the consequences will entirely rest with the South Korean authorities. A defectors group in South Korea flew 500,000 leaflets criticizing Kim Jong-un toward the north using balloons in late April. Pyongyang blew up an inter-Korean liaison office in the border city of Kaesong after defectors lofted similar leaflets in May last year. South Korea's unification ministry has expressed opposition to actions that could heighten tensions on the Korean peninsula. It vowed to continue efforts to build peace and move inter-Korean relations forward. In December, South Korea passed a bill that bans flying leaflets to North Korea. It went into effect in March. The ministry said a police team is investigating the April activities of the defectors group. China's Navy says the Shandong Aircraft Carrier Group has conducted a drill in the South China Sea. The exercise comes as both Chinese and American aircraft carrier groups are currently deployed in the South China Sea and surrounding waters. People's Liberation Army Navy spokesperson Gao Xiuqiang made the announcement on Sunday. He said that the deployment was part of a regular series of exercises based on an annual work schedule. He said it will contribute to improving the Navy's ability to safeguard China's sovereignty. Gao expressed the hope that the outside world would view the exercise objectively and rationally. He said the Navy will continue organizing similar exercises regularly in the future. China has territorial disputes with neighboring countries over islands in the South China Sea. The administration of U.S. President Joe Biden has said it regards China's territorial claims as unlawful. In April, the U.S. Navy released photos and videos of its monitoring of the Chinese aircraft carrier Liaoning in the Philippine Sea. This was thought to be aimed at keeping China's maritime activities in check. Observers say China's latest drill may be an effort to challenge the increased U.S. involvement in territorial issues. The latest figures from Japanese health authorities show 5,900 new coronavirus cases have been reported across the country. The total number of infections has now surpassed 600,000. On Sunday, 1,050 coronavirus patients were reported to have serious symptoms. That's the highest figure yet for Japan. The sharp increase is putting a strain on healthcare systems, especially in larger cities of Tokyo and Osaka. An expert says the rapid spread of variants could be the main factor behind the surge. Currently, the worst hotspot in the country is Osaka. Officials there reported 1,057 new cases on Sunday. It's the 6th day in a row that the number has topped 1,000. Osaka is one of 4 prefectures under the latest state of emergency that took effect on April 25th. This downtown district is usually crowded with tourists, but far fewer people than usual are out during the spring holiday period. Bars and restaurants are not serving alcohol, and their operating hours have been shortened in line with the prefectural government's request. This owner says sales are about a tenth of what they usually are.
The spring holiday period is the best time for us to earn money. It's such a pity.
The minister in charge of the coronavirus response is calling for more vigilance.
We want everyone to refrain from going on trips or visiting hometowns for the rest of the week-long holidays.
In Tokyo, 879 people were confirmed to be infected on Sunday. It's the first time in more than 3 months that the number has topped 800 on a Sunday. Japanese astronaut Noguchi Soichi and 3 other crew members have returned to Earth on board the SpaceX Crew Dragon after spending more than 150 days at the International Space Station. The capsule entered the Earth's atmosphere early on Sunday morning, U.S. Eastern Time. The spacecraft deployed parachutes to slow its descent and made a rare nighttime splashdown off the Florida coast. The astronauts came out of the hatch one by one, supported by recovery crew members. The 4 astronauts had arrived at the ISS last November. The Crew 1 mission was the first operational crewed flight using a spacecraft developed by U.S. private firm SpaceX. This was Noguchi's 3rd space flight. He ventured outside the ISS to install modification kits for mounting solar arrays. He also conducted experiments to cultivate induced pluripotent stem cells and grow plants in zero gravity. Another Japanese astronaut, Hoshide Akihiko, and 3 other crew members arrived at the space station in April. Hoshide is the commander of the ISS during his half-year stay. Turning to the ongoing Tokyo Olympic torch relay, about 180 torchbearers have taken part in the latest segment in the southwestern prefecture of Okinawa, but many runners didn't use public roads due to the pandemic. The second day of the relay on the main island was held without spectators at the Peace Memorial Park in Itoman City. One of the torchbearers was 78-year-old Miyagi Isamu. He was also a runner in the torch relay for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. At that time, Okinawa was still under U.S. control after World War II.
I thought I would be able to run comfortably because of my previous experience, but I was very nervous. I hope the sacred flame will be lit from the sacred place of peace in Okinawa.
The organizers are asking people to support the runners online to avoid spreading the coronavirus. The torch relay is scheduled to end on July 23rd, just in time for the opening ceremony. Those were the stories for this hour.
In Taiwan, at least 50 people were killed and more than 100 injured when a train struck a vehicle that rolled into its path. Protesters in Dawei, Myanmar, marched to honor activists killed by security forces during demonstrations against the military government. In Niger, the swearing-in of President Mohamed Bazoum marks the first handover of power from one elected president to another since the country's independence. And in eastern Russia, 8 doctors stayed behind in a burning hospital to complete a successful heart operation. No injuries were reported.
India has reported the highest number of deaths with COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic, a day after it recorded the largest number of daily infections in the world. Almost 3,700 people have died in the past 24 hours. A national day of mourning is taking place in Israel on Sunday after Friday's deadly crush at a Jewish pilgrimage. 45 men and boys died after being trapped in a narrow walkway during the festival at Mount Meron. There have been renewed protests in Myanmar against the military coup. The general seized power 3 months ago. There are reports of several people being shot by security forces during demonstrations. 4 astronauts have returned to Earth from the International Space Station in what NASA's first-time splashdown since Apollo 8's return 53 years ago. The departure from the ISS was delayed due to bad weather.